In a rapidly changing business landscape, is Blue Ocean strategy enough to ensure long-term success? Join us as we explore how this innovative approach fits within the more comprehensive blueprint and discover why a holistic strategy is crucial for navigating uncertainty and achieving resilience and sustainable growth. Welcome to Business Model Hackers. This is a podcast where each week we examine real-world applications of concepts and frameworks. We have Sam Schreim here with us, who is a former top-tier management consultant who traded the security of a lucrative career for the dynamic world of entrepreneurship. You should know that Sam himself brings a wealth of experience, having advised everyone from Fortune 500 executives to ambitious startups, and even extended his expertise to governments and nonprofits in strategic management roles. So gear up and let's get into it. Okay, Sam, it's super great to have you here as usual, and I'm looking forward to discussing Blue Ocean strategies and going beyond that to understand the navigation of a rapidly changing business landscape. Can you give us a brief overview of Blue Ocean strategy and its key principles, like just more or less overall breakdown?
Sure. Blue Ocean strategy is one approach to strategy. Being a strategy consultant, I've adopted many frameworks, for strategy development. And Blue Ocean strategy is one of them. That is a framework that was first introduced by Chan Kim and Renee Moborn, professors at INSEAD, in their 2004 book launch titled the same, Blue Ocean strategy. The core idea behind the Blue Ocean strategy is that companies should operate or target market spaces where competition is irrelevant. This is opposed to, say, battling rivals in existing crowded market spaces that are often referred to as red oceans. So the idea is that companies would seek out untapped market spaces that have new demand, also known as blue oceans. So there's another term, we use that in strategy consulting, and that is white spaces. In the book, the authors argue that by adopting such a strategy, companies can break away from the constraints of traditional competitive strategies and create new opportunities for growth and profitability.
I see. Are there any examples of companies that have successfully applied Blue Ocean strategy that you can talk us through?
Sure. No one can really attribute Blue Ocean strategy alone as key to success, right? First and foremost, a strategy is just ink on paper, right? So executing a strategy in business is a whole different ballgame, right? So in order to attribute success in business, you have to consider a holistic strategy. So Blue Ocean is one piece of the puzzle, if you say, but to explain or to illustrate, I can cite some examples of companies that adopt a strategy that, you can coin it or you can call it as Blue Ocean strategy, right? So one example is the company that that owns the brand name Cirque du Soleil. It's a Canadian entertainment company that kind of reinvented the circus industry in their niche. So instead of competing with traditional circuses, Cirque du Soleil created a new market space by, for example, eliminating animals from their performances and focusing on artistry, acrobatics, and storytelling. Right? They appealed to a whole new audience of adults who were willing to pay premium for sophisticated and memorable shows. Other examples include Airbnb. They created a market in the hospitality industry by allowing individuals to rent their homes or apartments to travelers, providing kind of unique and often more affordable alternatives to hotels or even vacation rentals. Then you have Uber, right, which created a new market based on on-demand cab hailing by leveraging smartphones, GPS technology to connect riders and drivers, and by providing convenient alternative to hailing a cab on the road, right? Another example is Starbucks, which created a new market for coffee by focusing on the experience of coffee consumption, offering a third place between work and home, at least the original concept, right? Where you would relax and socialize. So these examples intend to illustrate the essence or what it means to have a Blue Ocean strategy. It basically means to stay away from competitive red ocean market spaces and create new demand in such markets. In a sense, you can also see that the same examples that I usually call business model hacks, these examples that I just cited, because they also leverage new niches by adopting or inventing a new business model hack.
I read the book myself, and I felt that creating a blue ocean strategy seemed like a complex process. Like we're talking research, analysis, creative thinking. Can you walk us through a step-by-step process of how a company can create a blue ocean strategy, specifically in your style?
Sure. I mean, you can break down the entire process into 9 steps, right? The first step in creating blue ocean strategy is to take a hard look at the industry or market you're operating in, as in any strategy, right? You need to understand the current boundaries, assumptions that define the industry, the key players, their offerings, their strategies. I think this is like kind of a standard across all strategies to do that, right? And then it's like, when you move on next, there is where you start conducting also. I would assume if I were doing a strategy, any kind of strategy, blue ocean or otherwise, you would do what we call a current state assessment. And what that means is by kind of visualizing the current state of play and the landscape. So some people use canvases, that plot the current value curve of the industry, which is basically a graph that shows your industry, how your industry competes on various factors like price, quality, convenience, and then you compare your company's value proposition with your competitors. It's like creating a map of your industry competitive landscape. I think the third, which is like more specific to blue ocean, is about thinking outside the box. Right? This is where you go through what they have outlined as 6-pass framework, which is a tool that helps you break free from the conventional boundaries of your industry. It's similar to the business model hackathon, which I've been discussed under, the business model hacks. And in that, you look at across alternative industries, the strategic groups, buyer groups, complementary products and service offerings, and even explore functional, emotional orientation of your industry. It's like being an explorer, right? Where, you're charting kind of a new territory and discovering hidden opportunity. Next, in step 4, that's where you want to try and create a truly innovative strategy. And you need to basically get out there and observe your customers. Sometimes you do that, like we call that fly on the wall, right? Another way to do that is you conduct, actually, if you're doing it, internally, you can also, or even externally, right? You can conduct field research. In the field research, you do that through, focus groups, or quantitative surveys, or the output from focus groups feeds into the quantitative survey. And you basically, in a focus group, you engage in open-ended conversation with customers and non-customers, and other stakeholders. And you gather as much insights from other industries or markets as you can. In the 5th step, you use the data that you've gathered and what they also outline as the 4 actions framework. This framework is nothing else but a set of 4 questions. Okay, this is to help you kind of contour a value curve. The questions are designed to help you determine the factors to eliminate, reduce below standards, or raise above industry standards. This is ultimately to create new factors that set a new standard, right? And on that basis, you move on to step 6, and there is where you plot the company's new value curve based on the insights you've gained from your 4-action framework. And lastly, before you go all in, right, on execution, which are the standard steps, right? In step 7, you assess the potential of your idea, right? And that, I think that you would do that in any strategy again. But if we're following the blue ocean outline steps or process, you have to go through that as well, where you check your strategy has focus. Does it diverge from the competition, right? Because we mentioned that at the beginning. Does it have a compelling tagline? So you make sure it passes the price and adoption tests, and you ensure that it's both profitable and feasible. So lastly, in step 8, it's nothing else than step 8 and 9, let's say, you move into execution. So you execute, monitor, and iterate. That's in a nutshell the whole thing.
Can we sort of spin things up here and put head-to-head blue ocean strategy versus business model hackers optionality blueprint?
The optionalities blueprint is more of a comprehensive framework, right? For entire strategic growth and resilience. It incorporates a lot of tools and approaches. In other words, it can include blue ocean strategy as a tiny subset of, or one of the components, primarily related to the ideation. In fact, within the optionality blueprints, blue ocean strategies can serve as one of the many tools, right? primarily for generating natural fractal units, right? And strategic options. If you recall, NFUs are the fundamental building blocks of a company's portfolio. They represent different business units or opportunities at the various stages of maturity in a company. The optionalities blueprint emphasizes the importance of maintaining a balanced portfolio of NFUs that includes mature business, growing business, and nascent opportunities, which we call options, right? The blue ocean strategy specifically can fit into the wider optionalities blueprint by providing a methodology for identifying and developing new NFUs. This is to add to your potential pipeline of experiments and options. So by applying the strategy or the thinking behind the blue ocean strategy, companies can, let's say, ideate or explore potential uncontested market spaces where you can create new opportunities for growth and expansion, or what I called earlier as white spaces. But it's essential to recognize that blue ocean strategy is just one small aspect of the broader, more holistic optionality blueprint. So while the thinking is valuable for generating ideas, new ideas, and market opportunities, should be used in conjunction with other tools and approaches, right, to create more comprehensive and resilient strategy. And that's what the optionalities blueprint does, right? It emphasizes the importance of strategic agility, synergies, maximization, early detection, and managing a balanced portfolio of NFUs across different stages of maturity. So in summary, if we want to just look at blue ocean strategy as a key component or as a one component of the optionalities blueprint, you can say it kind of helped provide a powerful tool for generating new strategic options, let's call for NFUs. But it should be used, again, as part of a holistic approach and strategy that encompasses multiple dimensions of strategic thinking and resilience.
Now, you said something interesting in relation to natural fractal units, and you kind of went over it a little bit, but I want to open it up a bit. Can you explain the concept of a diversified NFU as far as what portfolio goes, and at the different levels of maturity too, their importance, and how it overall then relates to blue ocean strategy?
Natural fractal units, or NFUs, right, are the fundamental building blocks of a company's portfolio in the optionalities blueprint. They represent different business units or opportunities at various stages of maturity, each with its own unique characteristics and potential for growth. So, as I mentioned earlier, we classify them into three categories. You have the annuities, and these are the mature businesses, right? These are the ones that your bread and butter business, let's say, that generates your consistent cash flow and provides the foundation for the company's portfolio. Then you have the growth stocks. These are like opportunities that are growing fast, you're scaling them, they are experiencing rapid growth, have been proven, and they have a potential to become significant contributors to the company's overall performance. And then you have options or experiments. And these are the ones, where this is where blue ocean strategy plays a role, as I mentioned, to build the pipeline. These are the opportunities or early stage ventures that have the potential to become future growth stocks or annuities. The concept of NFUs is rooted in fractal geometry, right? It describes self-similar patterns that repeat across different scales. In the context of a company's portfolio, NFUs exhibit self-similar characteristics, meaning that each business unit or opportunity has the potential to grow and evolve into a larger, more complex entity over time. Right. So having a diversified portfolio of NFUs across these different maturity levels is crucial for a company's long-term success. This diversification can balance risk and reward and ensure that there is a mix of stable income, growth potential, and future opportunities that help companies navigate changing market conditions, technological disruptions, and other challenges, and thereby increasing overall resilience and adaptability. So as you can tell, blue ocean strategy relates to the NFUs, right? And mainly one way. It enables building the pipeline of potential NFUs, and the method helps companies to identify, develop new NFUs, mainly in the options category.
As we begin to close things out, I was wondering if we could go a bit beyond the idea of a blue ocean strategy and have you talk to us about what companies should consider in terms of other aspects of the optionalities blueprint that they should be keeping in mind.
Yeah, while blue ocean strategy can enhance an important component of the optionalities blueprint, and the ideation, that is, right? There are several other aspects that companies should consider to create a comprehensive and resilient strategy. And these include, as we outlined them in other episodes as well, just let's recap some of them here. The synergies across across different business units, capabilities, and strategic options. So by fostering collaboration, knowledge sharing, resource optimization, companies can create the value that is greater than the sum of its parts. In essence, synergies. Then you have early detection. Right. This is about continuously monitoring the business environment for weak signals or emerging trends or disruptive technologies or shifting customer needs. So if you detect these signals early, you can act on them early and be proactive and adapt your strategies and seize these opportunities before your competitors. Linearity assessment, that's another one which is along the lines of the complex systems that we discussed or that the companies are. And there is understanding the difference between linear and nonlinear systems in a problem solving, let's say, or investigative matter when you develop new strategies, right? So linear systems are characterized by more predictable proportional relationships between inputs and outputs. Nonlinear systems exhibit complex, more like emergent behaviors, things you cannot really influence, right? And you need to recognize these as you develop your strategy. And lastly, what we've discussed, about the portfolio management. I mean, you need to look at your company as a portfolio, and managing the company's portfolio and considering the portfolio, I'm talking about portfolio of NFUs, you ensure a balance between mature businesses, growth stocks, and options. This basically involves continuously assessing the performance and the potential of each NFU and allocating the resources strategically and making informed decisions about when to invest, divest, or pivot. This is unlike, Blue Ocean strategy where they're saying you allocate most of your resources into these new ideas. And lastly, continuous learning and experimentation. This is about embracing a culture of continuous learning where new ideas are constantly generated, tested, and refined. This is kind of the mindset that helps companies stay agile, innovate, and respond to changing market conditions. So by considering these aspects alongside Blue Ocean strategy, you can create a more holistic and resilient approach to strategic planning and growth.
Okay, I see. So then why don't we just go over some of the key takeaways then that I've taken away from this episode as we begin to close things out. For me, it looks like while tools like the Blue Ocean strategy can be incredibly valuable for generating new ideas and driving growth, they seem to be most effective when they're used as a part of a broader, holistic approach to strategy. So the Optionalities Blueprint provides a more comprehensive framework that can incorporate Blue Ocean thinking alongside other key components, like, as you mentioned, linearity assessment, synergies maximization, early detection, and portfolio management. So the way I see it, by adopting a holistic adaptive approach to strategy, companies seem to be able to create a more resilient, flexible, even innovative organization, seemingly better equipped to navigate challenges and opportunities in an uncertain environment like business. This approach also seems to recognize the complexity and interconnectedness of today's business world. And it emphasizes this importance of continuous learning, which is something that you made sure that you said enough times for us to understand just how important that is. Ultimately, as it feels like the key to long-term success doesn't necessarily lie in any single tool or framework, as we usually try to stress in this show with Business Model Hackers, but it seems to be able to integrate multiple perspectives and leveraging the strength of an organization. And I believe that by embracing this holistic and adaptive approach to strategy, maybe companies can position themselves for this kind of sustainable growth that they're looking for in an ever-changing landscape like business. So that being said, it is important for them to recognize that optionality is not a one-time event, but an ongoing process of learning and experimentation. This is what I'm taking away. And by committing to this process and continuously integrating the principles of the Optionality Blueprint, their strategic planning and decision-making position themselves for success long-term. With that said, I think that's going to wrap up our discussion for today. Thank you for tuning into Business Model Hackers. Again, we do encourage you to visit the website, businessmodelhackers.com, and subscribe to our newsletter where we go far more in depth on all these tools and topics of discussion that we sort of graze upon on the podcast, but provide some incredible resources that you can only find by subscribing. Also, please be sure to check out our social media channels and help grow the community, because the more we do this, the bigger and exponentially greater the impact of Business Model Hackers will be. Thank you, and see you next time.